for 30 plus years. I've seen every type of child grow up.
Instead of giving me what I wanted, she gave me what I needed, which was truth.
Don't let emotions win. Let truth win.
Do your very best, and you should have a lot of fun while you do it. And the better you get at something, the more fun you're going to have at something.
You moms and dads are wired with everything you need to be a parent to a great kid. Welcome to Parenting Great Kids. This is episode number 129, our second part of our interview with Elise Tate. Elise is the wife of NFL star Golden Tate. She's the mother of 2 biracial children, and she's best known for her parenting tips, DIY tricks, frugal couponing, her love for cooking, and her boss mom entrepreneur lifestyle. She lives in the NFL world, but is relatable to everyday overworked moms. She's the author of a very cool book, Sign Me Up for a Happy Home, a baby toddler starter sign language book, helping bridge the communication gap during those months or years while your child knows exactly what he or she wants, but can't say it. Now, with her book, kids can learn to sign it to you. As always, I'll share my points to ponder for you to start using right away. And parents, don't just download the episodes, click subscribe. Also, I'd love for you to write us a review on iTunes and let us know what you think of the podcast. Are there topics you'd like to hear or guests that you'd like to see come on our program? We would love to hear about that. Remember, we're on iTunes, and the PGK podcast is available in the Google Play Store and on Stitcher. Friends, do you get sick and tired of hearing your kids fight with each other or backtalk to you or not pay attention to anything you say? Sound familiar? Check out my brand new free webinar, When No Stops Working. I talk about my simple discipline that works course. Check it out. Go to my website and click on the link at the very front. So parents, thanks for listening. This is episode number 129. Stay with us. I want you now to listen in on a wonderful conversation I had with my guest, Elise Tate. You are going to love this one. I'm surprised that attachment experts and people that are really, enthusiastic, I won't say into, but, attachment, they wouldn't have brought this up and said, wait a minute, one of the best ways that we can increase attachment for kids and their parents would be to teach them to sign. Then the other thing is, Elise, as far as learning other languages in the future, say your child wants to learn Spanish in 4th grade or French or Latin like I did, it's got to be so much easier for them because they know how to work different parts of their brain. Boom. At the same time.
Boom. Both of my kids, I haven't even mentioned this to you. That's why I'm saying we are on the same wavelength. Both of my kids are, I'm trying to get them trilingual. And so sign is they know the least amount of words, but they are 100% bilingual in English and Spanish. You could talk to them all day in Spanish and not say one English word.
And they're 2 and 3?
They're 2 and 3. You can literally say, Goli, pone en la basura, or just as I was getting London from the park, I was talking to her in Spanish and saying, ¿por qué no estás durmiendo? Why are you not sleeping right now? Like, let's go, get in the car.
She answers you in sign. No, I'm teasing.
No, she intermixes. She will 100%, she'll say gracias while I'm, oh my gosh, she said the other day, she said, ¿cómo se dice? Like she was asking me, how do you say, what did she say? She said, ¿cómo se dice word in Spanish? I mean, it was wild. And then she asked the sentence in Spanish. So she was just wondering, we weren't even speaking in Spanish.
Yeah.
Yeah. And she was, but I promise you, sign language is the reason that she has blown through her milestones. So at 1 year, she could, I do these, I'm such a nerd, journaling every month of, all their cute little things or whatever, so they can read back on it. I actually made them a Gmail account and I email them emails so that one day they can read stuff that I sent to them. And that's my mom again, Jamma. We call her Jamma, Jan and Grandma. But
Yeah,
anyways,
that's
that
cute.
was Jamma telling me to do that. So we did that. But gosh, where was I going with that? I
Oh,
started thinking about my
no,
mom.
we were talking about you
Oh, the
wanted to be
trilingual.
trilingual
Yes.
and talking about the ease that you create for your kids in learning a third and fourth language if
Yes.
at an early age they've learned two.
Yes. And it's very true.
Yeah.
I'm telling you. Oh yeah. So that was where I was going. At her pediatrician appointment for her 1 year, they were like, can she say 3 to 5 words? And I was like, well, in which language? And they were like, what? And I was like, well, she knows English Sign and Spanish. And I'm like, tell her, London, like my 1-year-old was, I'm like, come on, it's hard because, kids they're not always going to do what you want,
Yeah.
especially they kind of clam up at the doctor's office. But I was like, we're not leaving here until she says a word in all these languages.
Yeah.
And so, I'm like, London, show us milk, show us eat or whatever. And she could say a couple words in Spanish, probably like 5 to 6 in Spanish, probably 10 in English, as a 1-year-old. Now that's different. That was wild. Like, I mean, my pediatrician just couldn't believe her eyes, but my son wasn't like that. So it's not like they both had the same upbringing in the same house. That just totally proves every kid is different. Like my son could not do that at all.
Exactly. And that's
totally
not
different.
that's not unusual that girls' language progresses more quickly than boys.
Yeah.
And it has nothing to do with intelligence. It's just who they are. So does he sign now? He's learned.
Oh yes. Oh my gosh, yes. So my son is almost 2. My daughter's almost 3. And last week, he can say quite a bit of English words. He's, they fully, and he can say a couple Spanish words. They both fully understand everything. But he can sign. They both, of course, can sign all the words in the book. And then they can sign a lot of eating words because that's really helped me, like in the high chair. That's also a big stress reliever, is being able to ask your kid. Like this morning, okay, this is so funny. On my story this morning, my husband was filming it live. Mm-hmm. And I was asking our kids, do you want a pancake or do you want eggs? Doing the signs. And then my goalie, once they were done, and he was crying. So then I'm on there and he's filming me. And I was like, okay, guys, like, look, this is a real life moment. And he was all being crazy. And I just asked him, what do you want? What do you want? And he signed to me, all done. Yeah. So I said, okay, you want to get out? You're all done. And he was so happy. So I pulled out the high chair. And as I pulled it out, he's reaching for keys from my daughter and he falls flat on his face. And this is like live. And I was like, that's so funny. So we had to show, he was fine. He was fine.
But that's life. It's just so fun. And the rest of us just love that because that's the kind of stuff that happens to us all the time. It's
just real. But I was just showing how, like, look, this is real. He was crying. And then he was able to tell us all done in sign language. Mm-hmm. He can't say all done in English, but he can say it in sign.
Well, Elise, I know that you have some extraordinary stories about your kids communicating what they need to you. Can you tell our listeners about a very cold day you were taking the kids to the park?
Yes. So this was just last week. And I was taking the kids to the park by myself. So oh my gosh, we're in New Jersey and you have to put on like 19 layers from socks and mittens and hats and everything. I've got my kids looking like a marshmallow. They're huge. And my son is crying, like screaming, and he doesn't. And I'm like, we're going to the park, and I'm feeling so defeated as a mom. And I'm like, what is wrong with him? I'm trying to do my best. I'm trying to take him to the park. I'm trying to get you outside. Why are you screaming? I keep saying the word park, and I just get down on his level and I just look at him and I say, goalie, what's wrong? And he stops and looks at me and signs. He puts his little hands at his hips and he does the sign for diaper. And I about fell over. I'm already squatted down.
Yeah.
And I just was like, wow, he's almost 2. He'll be 2 in February. And I was like, wow, here I am rushing around trying to grab all of this stuff. And my daughter's perfectly fine and excited.
Or maybe he's cold or he doesn't want to go or he's tired and it's a diaper issue.
Diaper. And I didn't even know because he had this big, long, puffy coat on. I'm trying to bundle them up. And yeah, we're not mind readers as parents. And little goalie, we call him. He can say a lot of English and a couple Spanish words, but he can't say the word diaper, and he can't say, "Mommy, I want my diaper changed." He can't say that. But the sign for diaper, yes, he can do that.
Wow.
And so he was able to tell me a whole sentence worth of what he needed just in that one sign. And it changed my whole day. It changed that moment. And then it changed the park experience, because I wouldn't have known. Like he'd have been kicking and screaming, and I would have been trying to buckle him in.
Mm-hmm.
And I just wouldn't have known why. And the whole time he's thinking to me, "Mom, my diaper,"
What's wrong with you?
Yeah, they know.
Diaper, yeah.
Yeah, they know exactly what they need and what they, what's wrong. And just giving them these top 15 signs to alleviate stress has just like empowered them. And it's not just for babies.
Mm-hmm.
Like I've had people say, like, this is not just for toddlers either. I've had moms write in and saying, "My 5-year-old loves this. My 5-year-old reads it." I've had a mom write in and say that because a teenager was teaching their younger sibling, they're now inspired to take ASL in high school. Mm-hmm. And so now, teenagers are reading it to and then I've had other moms say, like, "Oh, my 7-year-old, isn't very good at reading basic words, but is so empowered with this book because it's essentially a picture book as well with the signs."
Mm-hmm.
So the mom said she feels like she's reading, like, because she's, "Look, Mom, on this page, the baby's eating, and this page, and she can do the signs." So it's like really for all ages,
yeah,
and for parents and grandparents.
You're absolutely right. Well, that is a very compelling story. And hearing that, it makes you feel like, gee whiz, how many moments have I missed with my child and not understood what they really needed? So thanks so much for sharing that.
Of course, I know I feel that all the time. And that's what inspires me to learn more words. I'm like, what else are they thinking? They know what they want. What am I not teaching them?
So have you, because of your book and because of your Instagram, have you taught a lot of other mothers how to sign? Do people come to you and say, "Show me how to do that"? Or do you just say, "Read my book"?
Yeah, that's a good question. There's been so many. I just honestly don't have enough time. I feel like this was a passion project that I had no idea that it would even come to this, that I would ever be, on your podcast. I was so happy and excited, and it was the best in the world to meet you last year, and then to be asked to be on your podcast. I was like, yes, I will make. They were like, "Will this time work?" I was like, "I will clear my schedule. Yes, this time will work." So no, I never could have imagined that this would have happened from this passion project. So I just don't have enough time. I get those requests all the time. Like, "You should do live Facebook teachings and this and that, and you should show." So I do just on my stories, like, look, I put a lot on Instagram, but if you look at my husband and I were talking about this the other day, if you look at my activity, it could be like 8 minutes total for the whole day. Because the only time I'm on is just putting up the live story. And then I have no time for scrolling around or whatever. Yeah. So sometimes I don't even know what I'm putting up there, and people will be like, "Did you mean to?" And I'm like, "Oh, well, I just threw it up there live. Yep, that was my kid falling on the floor."
Yeah.
So I do teach it kind of if you're watching the stories daily. And I've done, like, I just got some little gifts done where I'm doing the signs, so that we're having fun little elements that will come in, and, we're going to start implementing like the word of the week and stuff, but it's just the time factor for me.
Well, somebody moves 4 or 5 times a year and has a 2-year
like 30-year-old
within 13 months. Oh my gosh. You're standing. Parents, I hope you're enjoying this conversation with Elise. We need to take a quick break, but don't go anywhere. We'll be right back with more of my conversation with her. It's funny. I always tell parents, if you have an 8-10 month or a 2-year-old, they worry, "Do I do this? Have you done this?" I said, listen, if your kid's alive at the end of the day, by the time you put him to bed, you've won.
You're winning.
What you're supposed to do is keep them alive. But, I was thinking, you at this point, you certainly don't need to formally teach anybody, because they could learn through your book. I mean, your book is that good. That you could sit down and say, "Okay, tonight I want to learn all done. Okay, tonight I want to learn help." Whatever. And you really can. And so for those out there who are saying, please tutor me, you don't need her to tutor you because, it's all in the book.
Thank you so much for saying that.
I think, well, I really hope, honestly, I hope this becomes a national bestseller because it's really important, I think, for many different reasons for parents to teach their kids, not just from a neurologic standpoint, a developmental standpoint, an attachment standpoint, an alleviation of frustration standpoint, a way for a parent to understand their kid's standpoint, that's about 7 standpoints. I'm just a believer in sign language because I think that if we who aren't deaf can prepare ourselves to communicate more with those who are, that even opens up a whole world for them. And if you were a parent of a child who couldn't hear well, wouldn't you love it if friends, adults around you knew how to communicate to your child?
Yes.
And how wonderful is that for the child? Because I think adult friends of parents have huge influence on kids. And, if we could communicate better with those kids, it would be better for their self-esteem. They realize, gee whiz, I'm not that odd, because there are a lot more people who sign. And not that they're feeling odd, but, they feel like sometimes they're on the periphery.
Yeah.
And so I think, that's just another reason
I'm telling you
to teach the kids signs. So
I agree. And I'm telling you, so this whole thing, it's, I'm like, how, I'm always like praying, like, God, where do you want this book to go? Like, what did you want with this? Because I could have never imagined that, how much of my day, how many hours a day I'm now spent with like customer service and the fulfillment center and all this. And, I used to mail out every book myself and hand sign them all the first couple thousand. I did that. And I was taking them around with us when we moved. It was insane. Just this July, the book just launched this year in March, and then we sold out, and then got more or whatever. But yeah, the thing that fills me and fulfills me and motivates me are all of these emails and DMs and stories of exactly what you just said about how inclusive the book has made their child feel. And that when I'm like, oh man, I just don't have time and blah, blah, I open my email and I see, they pour in every day. And just everything that you've said, I could give you an example of a mom that has written in, I'd probably 20 around about that exact issue, where they're saying like, look, this book takes out the intimidation factor. And so I bought several copies and I gave one to relatives because my child is deaf and I just want an easy resource for their uncles and their grandparents to be able to communicate with them and feel like they are able to speak to them too, and then I'm like, wow, I never thought about that. Like, this is really helping their family, their extended family, and them to feel. And then, also kids, like what you're saying, how kids are able to have more compassion for each other. And
we don't often think about that. When we talk about inclusivity, we think about race, we think about economics, but we don't think about kids who are who are challenged in different areas.
Go to milk.
Go to milk.
Go to page milk, and then continue your thought. Continue.
Okay. And so I think that's really important, not just from the oh yeah, it's so sweet. So anyway, what Elise is referring to is the child assigning milk is in a wheelchair, which I love. Yeah, I just love it. And and I think that it's good for the people who are learning to sign to reach out to the child and pull them into their world. And I also think for kids, for any child, it's very important to have as solid a relationship as they can with extended family.
Yes.
And so that if you can facilitate, making that relationship stronger, Elise, I could just talk to you for another hour.
I'm in. Look, my husband's upstairs. Like, I will talk to you. I'm like, let's
Go get a glass of Chardonnay. We'll
Yeah,
keep on going.
BRB. Should I text him and be like, will you bring me some wine?
Yeah.
He totally would. Wait,
Like,
let me text him. Let's see
Totally,
if he comes
totally
up.
would. So, the book is Sign Me Up for a Happy Home.
Mhm.
And to tell you the truth, before we interviewed, I'm like, why'd she say a happy home? I totally get it now.
Mhm.
It's a fabulous book. I hope you sell 1 million copies, because
Oh,
I will guarantee you 1 million parents out there need to learn to sign for their kids. Our
yeah.
culture needs it. The family needs it. The kid needs it. The parent needs it. And how can people get hold of you if they'd like to learn more about you and the book?
The book, it's just Sign Me Up. So on Instagram, the handle Sign Me Up, and then the website is shopsignmeup.com.
Mhm.
And you can see a bunch of just, you can learn more about our giving back program. This wasn't this book, I truly believe, happened for a reason. I just wanted to help other parents just feel the stress relief that I've felt in so many moments throughout the day when my baby or toddler is able to speak to me.
Yeah.
So, you can learn more about, why I made it. There's the whole story up there because that's been asked so much. You can read about that. You can read about what organization we're donating to every month, because every month we partner with a different organization to give back to. You can see the diversity. We didn't even get into that, but that was so important to me because my children are.
You can see that in the book. I mean, it comes through in the book. It really comes through in the book. Well, I am so inspired. I don't have any grandkids under 1, but I guarantee
Under
you
3.
the next one that pops along, Grandma is teaching sign language to that kid.
Yes.
Because it's, really my older grandkids could learn how to do it. The book is Sign Me Up for a Happy Home. My wonderful guest has been Elise Tate. And Elise, I'd love to have you back on the podcast and talk about stress reduction for mothers who are living crazy lives. And I think you can speak into that pretty well.
I'd be happy to come back for absolutely anything. But yeah, I've only just got a couple moving tips, but only because I've done it so many times. But
I'm sure you have more in there than you think that you do. Well, thanks so much.
You are so welcome. Thank you for having me. You are just such an inspiration to everyone. I mean, I have been the biggest fan for so long, so it really was such an honor.
That's very humbling. That's very humbling. Thanks so much. I appreciate it.
Of course. Thank you.
Now on to my points to ponder. 1, a child's temper tantrums come from a sense of frustration. When your children are young and they can't communicate with you, they get very, very frustrated because you don't understand them. And that can drive a temper tantrum. They get very, very frustrated. So to whatever degree you can help your toddler or child communicate, you'll have a better chance of reducing tantrums. 2, signing is good for communication as well as brain development. Young children pick up languages in addition to sign language much easier than we adults do. As they learn a new language, their brain develops better, their anxiety goes down, and their confidence increases. Teaching your child the basics of sign language during the early years of life will enhance many aspects of growth and development. 3, teaching your child sign is a bonding experience. Whenever you and your toddler work face to face, the bond between the two of you grows. Children in their first year of life are still forming strong attachments. So whenever you spend one-on-one intimate time together, you give your young child a means by which he or she can form a deeper attachment to you. I want to thank my guest, Elise Tate, for joining me on the show today. To find out more about Elise, go to shopsignmeup.com. Shopsignmeup.com. Be sure to follow Elise on Instagram. Just search for Sign Me Up on Instagram. So let's recap my points to ponder. 1, tantrums come from frustration. 2, signing is good for communication as well as brain development. And 3, teaching sign is a bonding experience. So parents, don't forget, go to my website, meekerparenting.com, and sign up for my free brand new webinar, When No stops working. So until next time, parents, always remember, great kids are raised, not born.
Hey, this is Bobby, producer of Meg Meeker's Parenting Great Kids podcast. Thanks for listening, and because of your dedication to raising great kids, Dr. Meg's Parenting Revolution has grown to over 3 million downloads. Head on over to Facebook and Twitter and follow @MegMeekerMD and check out what's new at megmeeker.com. And while you're there, sign up for the newsletter to stay updated and get information about giveaways. Don't forget to share the podcast with other parents, subscribe so you won't miss anything, and leave us a review so we know how we're doing.